My name is Olivia Hartman. I'm 35 years old. I was born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina. On paper, I was everything you'd expect from a good Southern daughter: polite, obedient, trusting, maybe too trusting. And that's what nearly got me killed, because 2 years ago, on a warm summer night, my own sister pushed me off a yacht. All $4 billion, the ocean swallowed me whole, and for a moment I thought I was gone, but survival has a strange way of reshaping. A soul.it burned something inside me, something sharp, something merciless, and when I came back, I carried with me a gift she'll never forget. I should start from the beginning. My sister's name is Vanessa. She's 2 years younger than me, but she's always acted like she was older, colder, sharper, hungrier. I was the dreamer, the bookworm, the one who spent summers sketching by the harbor, reading poetry under magnolia trees. Vanessa? She was chasing shadows of power before she could spell the word. Our family wasn't poor. My father built a shipping company from scratch. Old money families in Charleston never respected him, though. To them, he was new money, but to us, he was everything. When he passed suddenly from a stroke, everything shifted. The will named me executor. I was the eldest, the responsible one. Vanessa smiled at the funeral, her eyes dry. That was the first time I felt it, that chill, the way her grief looked staged, like a mask she wore because society expected it. But still, she was my sister, and I loved her. Our father's company was valued at nearly $1 billion. With investments, assets, and liquid shares, it was an empire, but it came with chains, contracts, promises, enemies. I wasn't ready to run it. I was a painter, a teacher, someone who thrived on quiet, but Vanessa? She thrived on attention. You're too soft for this world. Live, she'd whisper when she thought no one was listening. You'd rather live in your sketchbooks than face reality. Maybe she was right, but softness doesn't mean weakness. I learned that the hard way. 6 months after the funeral, Vanessa invited me to Miami. Business trip, she said. Come celebrate. Dad would have wanted us together. I hesitated. Something about her voice felt too smooth, too rehearsed, but I went. Because that's who I was, the sister who still believed blood meant loyalty. The yacht was massive. White decks gleamed like polished bone under the Florida sun. Guests floated in sequin dresses and pressed suits, sipping champagne, laughing. Too loudly. Vanessa looked radiant, golden dress, diamond earrings that sparkled like daggers. She hugged me for the cameras, but her grip was cold, her nails digging into my skin. I should have left then. I should have known. Around midnight, the party thinned. Waves slapped gently against the hull. Music softened. Vanessa poured me a drink. Here's to us, she said, her smile too wide. I remember the bitterness of the champagne, the way her eyes never blinked, and then her words. You're in the way, Olivia. You always have been. Before I could answer, she shoved me hard. My heel caught the slick deck, and suddenly the world was nothing but air, then water. The ocean doesn't care about your name, your family, your money.it only cares how long you can fight. The salt burned my throat as I gasped, kicking, clawing at the waves. I remember seeing the yacht drift farther and farther away. Vanessa didn't look back. No one did. They thought I was gone, and for hours. I believed it too, but something inside me snapped that night. It wasn't just survival, it was rage, not the kind that screams, but the kind that sharpens into ice. I survived, barely, and when I washed ashore, broken and trembling, I made myself a promise. She would pay, not with blood, not with fists, but with something she could never escape the truth. And when I came back, I didn't come empty-handed. I carried with me a gift she'll never forget. Have you ever floated in darkness so complete that you forget you even exist? That's what those hours felt like. Salt burned my lips. My arms ached until they felt like stone. Every wave pulled me under, whispering, "Let go, Olivia, let go." The water was black velvet stretched over endless teeth, and the stars above, they mocked me. They shone so bright, like they were celebrating the party I'd just been thrown out of. At one point I gave in. My body stopped fighting. I let the ocean take me, and in that quiet surrender, I saw her face. Vanessa's smile, not a sister's smile, a predator's. Something snapped. I wasn't going to die in salt and silence. Not for her, not for greed. I kicked again, clawed for air, cursed her name with every breath. That rage kept me alive. I don't know how long I drifted, hours, a night? When I woke, I was sprawled on wet sand, coughing up seawater until my chest tore. It was dawn. The sky bled orange and pink, cruelly beautiful, my hair tangled with seaweed, my skin raw, burning from salt, but I was alive, alive. I crawled inch by inch until I collapsed under the shade of palms. That's when the tears came, not sobbing, not loud, just silent, endless tears soaking the sand beneath my cheek, because it hit me. My sister, my blood, had tried to erase me, and no one even noticed. For days I hid. A fisherman found me. An old man named Diego. Weathered skin, eyes like dark glass. He spoke little English, but he gave me food, water, bandaged my blistered feet. I stayed in his shack by the shore. Wooden walls, the smell of fish and salt. Nights filled with the creak of waves. I didn't speak much. What could I say? My sister shoved me off a yacht for $1 billion? Who would believe that? I stared at the ceiling at night, listening to the sea. Every crash of waves felt like her laughter. Every shadow, her hand pushing me again. I became hollow. I didn't call anyone, didn't report her. I let the world think I was gone because part of me had died. Have you ever watched your own reflection disappear? I did. In that shack's cracked mirror, I saw myself fading, skin pale, eyes bruised, shadows, my hair tangled, lips cracked. I whispered to myself once, "You're nothing without her," and I believed it. That's how deep betrayal cuts. It makes you question if your entire life was a lie, if you were foolish from the start. Vanessa hadn't just pushed me off a yacht, she'd pushed me off my own identity. But then, one night, Diego sat beside me. He pointed to the ocean. His voice was low, rough with years of storms. He said, "Sea takes, but sea gives back too." I didn't understand at first, but as I lay awake, staring at that endless horizon, something inside me stirred. Maybe he was right. The sea had taken my trust, my innocence, but it gave me something too, a second chance, and second chances demand action. I stopped crying, stopped breaking. I started writing notes, memories, numbers, accounts my father left behind, passwords I hadn't touched in years, because I remembered Dad had trusted me with everything, not Vanessa, me. And if she thought she'd stolen his empire, she hadn't seen anything yet. For 3 months, The world believed I was dead. News reports whispered about a tragic accident. Vanessa cried on television, crocodile tears glistening as she spoke of her beloved sister. I watched from that shack, biting my lip until I bled. The performance was flawless. She even held my old sketchbook in interviews, pretending it was her most treasured memory of me. Lies, all of it. But I let her lie, because while she played her game in public, I was rebuilding in silence. By the fourth month, I looked in the mirror again, not the broken Olivia, not the trusting fool, a new woman, hair cut short, eyes sharper, a stillness in my face that unsettled even me, the kind of stillness that comes after fire. I whispered one thing to that reflection: she won't see me coming, and in that moment, I knew I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the storm. Revenge isn't fire. It isn't screaming. It isn't chaos. It's patience. It's silence sharpened into a blade. I didn't storm back into Vanessa's life the way she expected. I didn't call the police. I didn't cry to the media. No, I became invisible, and in that invisibility, I built power. My father had trusted me with things Vanessa never knew. Before he died, he left me envelopes, safes, scattered like breadcrumbs across the world, old accounts in Switzerland, shell corporations in Dubai, land deeds tucked into dusty drawers of lawyers who thought they'd never see me again. I started with the passwords, numbers burned into memory from childhood games. Olivia, Dad used to whisper, never trust the surface. Always keep something below. He knew Vanessa. He must have. Maybe he saw the greed in her before I did. By the time Vanessa was celebrating her victory on yachts and gala stages, I was in a silent internet cafe in a nameless coastal town, unlocking millions she didn't even know existed. I couldn't walk back into Manhattan as Olivia Bennett, the girl who tragically drowned. That girl was dead. So I created someone new, Elena Marlowe, 32, investor, minimalist, shadow. I bought papers from quiet channels, altered my hair, my style, sharp suits instead of soft dresses. When I looked into mirrors now, no one saw the fragile little sister. They saw a woman who belonged in boardrooms, who commanded silence with her presence. And that's exactly what I needed. Do you know what you learn after betrayal? That kindness is a currency thieves love to steal. I stopped spending it. Instead, I studied Vanessa's empire from afar, every contract, every investor, every deal she pretended was hers. It wasn't difficult. The business world, leaks, executives gossip, lawyers brag, mistresses spill secrets for diamonds, and I listened. In 3 months, I knew her moves better than she did. In 6 months, I was already slipping into her world, quietly buying stakes under Elena's name, pulling strings she didn't see. I became the shadow behind her spotlight. 6 months after my death, I attended my first event as Elena Marlowe. It was a charity gala in Manhattan. Vanessa was there, of course. Glittering gown, lips painted in victory, the darling of every headline. I stood across the room, champagne glass untouched, and for the first time since the ocean, I smiled, because she didn't know me. Her eyes skimmed past me like I was a stranger, but I knew her every weakness, her every crack, and I wasn't rushing, I was savoring. That night, I spoke to one of her investors, a man named Harris, arrogant, greedy, the type Vanessa loved. Vanessa Bennett, I said casually, she's ambitious, But do you really think she can keep up with the old guard? He chuckled, shrugged, poured another drink. They said the same about her father once. But his eyes shifted, a seed of doubt. That's all I needed. Not war, just whispers. Whispers spread faster than truth. But whispers weren't enough. To truly destroy Vanessa, I had to resurrect Olivia Bennet, not as a broken girl, not as her victim, but as the storm she never saw coming. I began crafting the story, photos, records, testimonies. Even Diego, the fisherman, became part of it, willing to tell the world how he saved me from the sea. Piece by piece, I was weaving my resurrection, and when it was ready, it would split her empire in half, because nothing terrifies the guilty like the return of the dead. One night, staring at Manhattan skyline from a hotel window, I whispered a promise: she will fall, not by accident, not by mercy, but by truth, and I felt it. The city lights below, glowing like embers, seemed to pulse with me. I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't lost. I was the storm, and the storm was coming. The thing about lies? They glitter, they dazzle, but they never last. Vanessa's empire was built on deception, stolen money, inflated contracts, promises she could never keep, and I became the quiet hand pulling the threads loose. It started small, a mispayment to an investor she thought was loyal. An anonymous tip that one of her properties was leveraged twice. A subtle rumor at a dinner party that Vanessa's dead sister had been spotted in Europe. She didn't notice at first. Queens rarely do when their crowns start to tilt, but her empire did, and the cracks began to show. 3 months into my campaign, I sat in a conference room across from 2 of her biggest investors. They didn't know my name was Olivia. To them, I was Elena Marlowe, sharp, precise, confident. Miss Marlowe, one of them said, leaning forward, you've been warning us about Vanessa Bennett's liquidity issues. Are you certain? I didn't blink. She's over-leveraged. She's building castles with borrowed bricks. And when the storm hits, she won't be able to pay for the roof over her head. They exchanged glances. One of them scribbled notes. I sipped my coffee, calm, collected. Inside, my heart was steady because I wasn't lying. I was telling the truth they didn't want to see, and the truth is poison to liars like Vanessa. It started in whispers, then it hit the papers. Vanessa Bennett's fortune questioned, rumors of fraud shadowed the Bennett legacy. I clipped every article, slid them into a black leather folder, each one a nail in her coffin, and I didn't have to move fast. The world loves watching a fall from grace. The press had worshipped her when she was rising. Now, they circled like vultures. All I had to do was feed them scraps. The second gala I attended as Elena, Vanessa was radiant, sequined gown, diamond earrings, a smile that screamed untouchable, but the whispers had grown louder. People weren't leaning in to flatter her anymore. They were leaning back, wary. I watched from across the room as one of her investors excused himself mid-conversation. As another avoided her eyes. As her laughter grew just a little too forced. It was beautiful. And then the reporter struck. A young woman, microphone in hand, cornered Vanessa at the champagne table. Miss Bennett, how do you respond to allegations that your late father's estate was siphoned into shell accounts, that some beneficiaries may have been cheated? Vanessa's smile froze. She laughed, airy fake. That's ridiculous. But her eyes flicked just for a second. Fear, and I caught it. That flicker was everything, because the mask had cracked in public, and once it cracks, it never seals again. But my revenge wasn't complete yet. Exposing her fraud was only half the storm. The other half was me, Olivia Bennet, the sister she tried to erase, the ghost she thought she'd drowned. I wasn't ready to reveal myself yet, not fully, but I started leaving shadows of my existence. An old photograph mailed anonymously to a lawyer, a signature on a deed Vanessa thought she'd stolen, a voice message distorted, whispering, "Not dead." She was unraveling, her perfection was slipping, and the world was starting to ask, who was Olivia Bennet, and why was her name resurfacing? One night, after a fundraiser, I approached one of Vanessa's closest allies, an older man, wealthy, arrogant, but cautious. "Mr. Adler," I said, extending my hand. "Elena Marlowe. I represent certain silent interests." He studied me, suspicious. "What kind of interests?" "The kind," I said calmly, "that want to know what really happened to Olivia Bennet." He froze, tried to cover it with a sip of whiskey, but I saw it, the ripple. He muttered, "That girl drowned." I smiled. "Are you certain?" And I walked away, leaving him choking on doubt. Weeks later, during a live interview, Vanessa was asked directly about her sister. The interviewer smiled innocently. "Vanessa, your late sister Olivia, rumors say she may have survived. Any comment?" Her hand twitched. She forced a laugh. "That's absurd. My sister passed away years ago," but her voice cracked just slightly. I watched the clip a dozen times, her eyes darting, her smile trembling. The world saw it too. The comment sections exploded. "She's hiding something. Did her sister really die? What is Vanessa covering up?" The perfect mask was collapsing, and I wasn't even finished. By the time the first lawsuits hit her desk, Vanessa was already spiraling. The investors she courted were vanishing. The press she charmed were turning hostile. And still she didn't know who was behind it. She didn't see me, not yet, but she would, because the final act wasn't about whispers or headlines. It was about revelation. And when I walked back into her life, not as Elena, but as Olivia, she would know the ocean hadn't taken me, that the sister she'd tried to erase had returned, and I wasn't coming back for forgiveness. I was coming back to take everything. Revenge has its own clock. It doesn't tick like the others. It waits, patient, silent, until the moment comes. And my moment came on a stormy Thursday night, the kind where thunder cracks the sky in half, and even the city lights seemed to tremble. Vanessa thought she was untouchable. She still strutted through her penthouse like a queen, even as her empire crumbled. But queens fall hardest when the ghosts come knocking, and I was her ghost. I had been there before as Elena Marlowe, the ally she never questioned. But this time, I didn't hide. This time, I wore my own skin. Olivia Bennet, the sister she'd tried to erase. Her doorman hesitated when I walked in. The resemblance was undeniable, but my forged credentials, an icy composure, got me through. The elevator carried me upward, my reflection staring back at me in the mirrored walls. I whispered to it, "This ends tonight." She was in her living room, pacing, phone in hand, barking into it, "No, you listen to me. Pull the deal before the regulators see it. I don't care what it costs, just do it." Her hair was perfect, her gown shimmered, but her voice cracked, strained. I stepped into the doorway, silent, and when she turned, Her world stopped, her jaw dropped, her phone slipped from her hand, clattering to the marble floor. "Olivia?" she whispered, like a prayer gone wrong. For a moment, the storm outside filled the silence, rain against glass, thunder in the distance. I just stood there, letting her choke on the sight of me, alive. "Whole, unforgiving, you look like you've seen a ghost," I said softly. She staggered backward, shaking her head. No, this isn't. You drowned. I saw you fall." I. Her words tangled, her mask, the one she wore for the world, shattered in seconds, and God, it was beautiful to watch. The dialogue of truth she tried to recover, straightened her back, forced a brittle laugh. "This is impossible. Some trick. No trick." I cut her off, my voice steady, low. "I survived. And I've been watching." Her lips trembled, her eyes darted, searching for control, but there was none left. "You don't understand," she stammered. It wasn't supposed to be like that." I tilted my head. "You mean the part where you pushed me off a yacht? Or the part where you stole $1 billion while telling the world I was dead?" She flinched, like the words were knives, and maybe they were. I pulled the black leather folder from my bag, the one I'd been building for years. Contracts, bank transfers, forged signatures, every dirty secret she'd tried to bury. I dropped it on her glass table, the papers fanned out like a crime scene. She stared at them, frozen. "I've shown copies to your investors, your lawyers, even the press," I said calmly. "These are just for you. So you know the end is real." Her hand hovered, trembling, but she didn't dare touch them. "Olivia," her voice cracked, "we can fix this. We can work together. Split it. Sisters." I laughed, cold, sharp, the kind of laugh that doesn't reach the eyes. "Sisters?" I whispered. "You killed that word the night you tried to kill me." For the first time in her life, Vanessa Bennett begged. She dropped to her knees, grabbing my wrist with shaking hands. "I was scared, Olivia. Dad always loved you more. You were the heir, the favorite. I had nothing unless I took it. Please, I didn't mean." Her voice dissolved into sobs, ugly, desperate sobs. But I didn't feel pity, not anymore. I leaned down, my face inches from hers. "You should have let the ocean take me," I whispered, "because now I'm the storm." I left the folder there, evidence enough to ruin her, and as I turned to leave, I gave her the last gift. "The world knows, Vanessa. By tomorrow morning, every headline, every investor, every so-called friend, they'll see you for what you are." She gasped. "You can't." I already did, and I walked out, leaving her crumpled on the marble, screaming my name into the storm. By dawn, it was over. The headlines screamed her downfall. Vanessa Bennett fraud exposed, heiress caught. In multi-billion-dollar scandal, the photos of her being escorted out of her penthouse. They didn't show a queen, they showed a broken woman. And me? I didn't stay to watch the rest. I didn't need to. I had already won. Reflective ending. People ask if revenge brings peace. No, peace is quiet, revenge is fire, and fire doesn't calm. It consumes you, but standing there in the ashes of her empire, I finally understood something. I wasn't the girl she pushed off a yacht anymore. I wasn't her shadow. I wasn't her victim. I was Olivia Bennett, and I had written the ending myself. Not forgiveness, not mercy, just truth. And sometimes truth is the sharpest blade of all. The morning air smelled different, like the city itself had woken up to a new truth. When I walked through the streets of Manhattan, I felt it. Eyes lingered on me longer than usual, whispers trailed behind. I hadn't been seen in years. To them, I was the woman who had died. Now I was the ghost who walked among them, but the real story wasn't about me. It was about her, Vanessa Bennett, the woman who once ruled every headline, now reduced to front-page disgrace. The morning's paper was brutal. Heiress Vanessa Bennett exposed in $1 billion fraud. Insider sister revealed as betrayed victim. Bennett legacy crumbles overnight. Her face was everywhere, not the flawless, airbrushed goddess she curated online. No, these photos were raw, her mascara smeared, her wrists locked in silver cuffs, her eyes wide, empty, hunted. The symmetry wasn't lost on me. Our father's empire, his life's work was shattered. Investors pulled out. Shareholders screamed betrayal. The Bennett name, once spoken with reverence, was now poison. Calls poured into my phone, some from relatives I hadn't heard from in a decade. Their voices trembled, desperate. Olivia, please, can you explain? Can you save us? But I wasn't their savior. I wasn't their shield. I told them, one by one. No, you chose her. Now live with her. Hanging up each call felt like cutting the last thread that tied me to that bloodline. I avoided the news at first, but one evening, sitting alone in a quiet cafe, the television caught my attention. There she was, Vanessa, dragged through the courthouse, cameras flashing like wildfire. Reporters screamed questions. Did you really defraud your own investors? Did you push your sister off a yacht? Vanessa, is Olivia alive? Did you know she survived? And her face, she looked small, not the towering figure she had been, just a broken woman clinging to lies. No comment, she whispered over and over, like the words could shield her from reality. Behind the headlines, the collapse was louder. Her penthouse was seized, her cars repossessed, her jewelry auctioned to pay back crumbs of the billions she stole. I heard whispers that she called old friends for help, but no one answered, not a single one. They were quick to sip champagne with her when she was powerful, quicker to abandon her when she burned. That was the difference between her and me. She built her empire on lies and glass. I built my survival on silence and stone. But here's the truth nobody tells you about revenge. It doesn't end when they fall. It lingers inside you. Heavy. At night, when the city was asleep, I'd lie awake, hearing the splash of the ocean in my mind, feeling the cold water on my skin, the weight of betrayal pressing against my chest. Sometimes I'd dream of her hands on my shoulders, pushing me again, and I'd wake up gasping, clawing at air like I was still drowning. I had destroyed her, but had I freed myself? I wasn't sure. 2 weeks after her arrest, a letter came, handwritten from her. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity won. Inside, shaky handwriting filled the page. Olivia, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect you to read this, but you should know. The night I pushed you, I hesitated. For a second, I almost pulled you back. Almost, but greed won. Fear won. I was so used to being second that I thought if I didn't erase you, I'd disappear myself. Now, I'm the one erased. If you ever wonder if I regret it, I do. Every second. I regret it. Vanessa, read it once, twice, then I burned it. Regret doesn't rewind time. It doesn't erase scars. It doesn't bring back the years I lost. Some words don't deserve to live. The strange freedom her downfall freed me in unexpected ways. I could walk into a room without my name being overshadowed by hers. I could build without people questioning if I was just Vanessa's sister. I was myself again. I started teaching business ethics at a small university. Strange, right? But after everything, I wanted young people to know power without integrity is a ticking bomb, and sooner or later, it explodes. Some listened, some laughed, but I didn't care because every word I spoke was mine, not hers, not my father's, mine. The world moves on. Headlines faded after a while. The world found new scandals, new tragedies, but every once in a while, I'd hear her name, Vanessa Bennett, the woman who lost everything, the sister who betrayed blood, and people would shake their heads, not knowing the whole story, not knowing the water, the salt, the silence that followed. That part belonged only to me. Reflective closure. I regret it. No. Would I do it again? Yes, but sometimes, late at night, when the city is quiet and the ghosts are louder, I wonder what it would have been like if she hadn't pushed me, if we'd fought side by side instead of against each other. That future doesn't exist. It never will, because at the end of the day, revenge isn't about rewriting the past, it's about closing it. And I've closed it. Vanessa Bennett is gone. The empire is gone. But me, I'm still here, breathing, walking, telling my story. And that's the greatest revenge of all. The silence after the storm. Revenge is loud when it happens, but afterward, it's quiet. Too quiet. I remember the first week after Vanessa's sentencing. The city kept spinning, people kept walking, but I felt hollow. For years, I'd lived with one purpose: survive, return, destroy. And now I had .so. Why did my hands still shake at night? Why did I wake up sweating, hearing the splash of water that wasn't there? I'd taken her crown, but I hadn't taken back my peace. Therapy used to think therapy was weakness, that talking about pain made it heavier. But one morning, staring at myself in the mirror, I realized I didn't even know who I was anymore. The girl who loved the ocean, gone. The young woman who dreamed of building her own company, buried. All that was left was a survivor. So I called, and I sat across from a stranger with kind eyes. Her name was Dr. Hall, and she asked me something no one had ever asked before. Olivia, what do you want? Not revenge, not justice. What do you want? I couldn't answer. The silence stretched until it broke me. I cried, for the first time, not out of anger, but out of emptiness. The nightmares in therapy, the dreams followed me. I'd wake in the middle of the night, gasping, my body drenched in cold sweat. In the dream, it was always the same. Vanessa's hands on my shoulders, her whisper, "Sorry, Liv," and then the push. I'd claw at the air, feel the icy water close over me. When I'd wake, my chest would ache, like my lungs had never refilled. Dr. Hall told me, "Your body doesn't know it's over. You survived the water, but your mind still thinks you're drowning." She was right. The trust assurance destroys more than just your enemy. It destroys trust. Friends would smile at me, but I'd watch their eyes for betrayal. Every laugh, every compliment, I dissected it, waiting for the knife. Men tried to date me, but the moment they reached for my hand, I froze because I could still feel Vanessa's hand. The push, the betrayal. How could I trust anyone when my own blood tried to erase me? The lecture hall teaching helped. Standing in front of young students, watching their bright eyes as they scribbled notes, it gave me purpose again. But sometimes, when I spoke about ethics, I'd see her face in the crowd, Vanessa, sitting in the back row, smirking. Of course, she wasn't really there, but the ghost of her lived everywhere. In the rustle of papers. In the echo of my heels on the hallway tiles. In the silence between questions. The private rage. Some nights, I let myself feel it. The rage. I'd stand in my apartment, music off, lights dim, and whisper the things I never got to say to her. You ruined me. You stole years I'll never get back. You killed who I was. And then, softer, trembling. But you didn't win. I'm still here. Those nights ended with me clutching the edge of the sink, breathing hard, my reflection staring back at me with fire and grief twisted together. The letter to myself. Hall suggested something strange. She told me to write a letter, not to Vanessa, but to myself. I stared at the blank page for hours. Then finally I wrote, Olivia, you are not just a victim. You are not just revenge. You are allowed to laugh again. You are allowed to love again. You are allowed to be more than the girl who was pushed. You survived. Now live. I folded the letter and tucked it into my journal. I don't read it often, but sometimes when the nightmares come back, I remind myself, I'm not drowning anymore. The Visitone year later, I did something I swore I wouldn't. I visited her. The prison smelled of bleach and metal. The air was heavy, thick with lost time. And there she was, Vanessa, her hair cut short, her skin pale, her eyes hollow. For a moment, I saw my sister again, the girl I grew up with, the one who used to braid my hair and laugh with me in the summer sun. But then she spoke, Olivia. Her voice cracked. You won. I didn't answer, because it wasn't about winning. It was about surviving. She looked at me, tears forming. Do you hate me? I leaned closer, my voice steady cold. I don't hate you, Vanessa. Hate would mean you still matter. And then I stood up, and I walked away. I never visited again. The coincidence that was the day I realized something. Revenge gave me justice, but forgiveness wasn't for her. It was for me. Not forgiving her, never, but forgiving myself for the years I lost, for the silence I carried, for the fear that consumed me, because if I stayed chained to that night forever, then she'd still own me, and I refused to let her. The turning point. So I chose to travel. To see the world beyond the city that held my ghosts. I walked beaches without fear of the ocean. I hiked mountains that stole my breath. I ate food I couldn't pronounce, laughing with strangers who never knew my story, and slowly I became someone new, not the girl who was pushed, not the ghost who returned, but a woman, alive, whole, unfinished, yes, but free, reflective. Closure. Reckoning within isn't about destroying your enemy. It's about facing the mirror, facing the scars, facing yourself. Vanessa's prison bars held her body, but my mind had been its own prison, and now, brick by brick, I was tearing it down. Not for her, never for her, but for me, because the greatest revenge is not survival, it's life. It started with a letter, thick paper, my name written in shaky ink, the return address. the state penitentiary. For weeks, I didn't open it. It sat on my desk like a loaded gun. Finally, one stormy night, I tore it open, her handwriting, familiar, sharp. Olivia, I know you hate me, but please hear me out. I need you. They're moving me out of state. If you come, I'll tell you the truth, the whole truth, about that night, about why I did it. Please, don't let them take me before you know. I read it 3 times, and then I laughed. The truth, after everything. She still thought she could bait me, but still, my hands wouldn't let go of that letter. The choice for days, I wrestled with it. Dr. Hall warned me, Olivia, going back there might reopen wounds you've barely closed. But something gnawed at me. What if there was more? What if I never really knew why she shoved me into the sea that night? I needed closure, or maybe I needed to prove to myself that I did. In single quotes t.so. I went. The final meeting room was gray, sterile, a single table, 2 chairs, the kind of place where words feel heavier, and then the door opened. Vanessa walked in, prison uniform, chains at her wrists, but her eyes still sharp, still cunning. She sat down across from me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she smiled. You came. I leaned back, arms crossed. Say what you have to say. Her confession she exhaled. Shaky. I didn't mean to kill you, Olivia. You have to believe me. That night my laugh cut her off. Cold. You pushed me off a yacht in the middle of the ocean. Forgive me if I don't believe it was an accident. Her face twisted. Do you think I had a choice? Do you even know what was at stake? Enlighten me. She leaned forward, whispering like a conspirator. The money wasn't just about greed. I was trapped. Debt, investors, deals gone bad. I owed people you don't even want to imagine. That 1 billion, it was survival, mine. And if I didn't, they would have come for me, for us. I stared at her. For a second, I almost saw the sister I once loved, scared, desperate. But then I remembered the water, the silence, her hand, the push, and all pity burned away. You could have asked me for help, I said, my voice trembling with rage. You could have trusted me. I was your sister. Her eyes darted down. You were in the way. That was a .no excuses .no redemption. I stood up. The chains on her wrists rattled as she reached out. Olivia, wait. I looked her in the eye, steady and cold. You wanted me gone. And now, I'm gone. From you. Forever. I turned and walked out. The news 12 weeks later, the call came. Vanessa had taken her own life in prison. Her debts, her enemies, her demons had caught up with her. The world gasped at the headline. But me? I just sat in silence, not shocked, not even sad, just hollow, because the truth is my revenge had already been complete. Her final act wasn't mine to own. The reflective ending. People always ask me, do I feel better now? Do I feel free? And the truth is complicated. Yes, justice was served. Yes, Vanessa paid. But revenge doesn't erase scars. It doesn't give back the years I lost. It doesn't silence the splash of water in my dreams. What it gave me was choice. The choice to live without her shadow. The choice to define myself as more than the girl who was pushed. The choice to be Olivia, not just Vanessa's sister. So when people whisper my story, when they say, she got her revenge, I shake my head, because revenge was never the end. It was just the door, and walking through it, learning to live, to breathe, to laugh again. That was the real justice. Closing. Words for the voiceover. If you take anything from my story, remember this: survival isn't enough. You have to choose life, and sometimes the greatest revenge is simply this: smiling when they swore you never.